Christina here to listen to some music, and today we continue on with our full album listening of Point of No Return by Kansas. This is the fourth installment of the full album listening, and it's track number 5, Closet Chronicles. So this has been quite an adventure so far. We've had the namesake, Point of No Return, Paradox, a spider, and painting a portrait. So now we're on to some chronicles of the closet. And so the mystery of this album continues. But I think it has to do with the search of knowledge, maybe, which is maybe why it's KNOW, no, in Point of No Return. But that's just a guess so far. Mainly because I'm searching for knowledge about what this album actually is about. If it is, in fact, a whole concept album. Still not even sure about that. But then I also asked for some knowledge from my patrons and channel members. In my previous full album reactions on the channel, I didn't seek any information from anybody until I was done with the album. So I've learned my lesson. And when I was just a few tracks into this one, I went ahead and asked. And so now I kind of know some more stuff. I know more about the band members and the fact that they are more proggy than I was thinking that they were. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Where are we going next? And in our search for knowledge, as it continues, what else are we searching for? Well, maybe I can help, because I am a professional, classically trained musician, instrumentalist, vocalist, composer, and professor. So we look at all the different details of this music, the composition, the instrumentation, and what do we think about it? Why do we like it, or why do we not like it? So not every track on an album can be a person's favorite. So we'll see how we're going to like this one. So no more delaying. Let's listen. Okay, here we go.
Once carried through the current and be swept away. The king is in the closet. He's hiding from today. And though he owns all fortune, this room is where he'll stay. And his world is filled with darkness, turning gray. Gazing out the window of the 42nd floor, he is separate from all others. No one knocks upon his door, and it might as well be raining, 'cause the sunlight hurts his eyes, and his ears will never hear the children's cries. Once proud and full of passion, he fought the cause of man. Many people loved his courage, many followed his command. He changed the old into the new, and the course of things to come. And then one day they noticed he was gone. At first it didn't matter, nobody seemed to care. They all became too busy to find him anywhere. So no one knew, not even.
Okay, sorry, this tale is continuing on and on. There's not like, verse, chorus completely. It's a little amorphous, but I love that kind of composition. It doesn't always have to be so organized. And that's definitely a sign of prog rock, is that it's that asymmetry or the sort of amorphous structure. But who are they talking about? They're definitely talking about somebody. Somebody that is kind of tucked away somewhere. I don't know if that's that person's choice, because they're also talking about people that don't come and knock on his door. Oh, but in the first line, I did hear current and getting swept away. So right there is sort of that recurring theme of waves and being on the water, and even some of the album art, it shows a ship like going off the edge of a cliff. But I'm not sure what the portrait or the knowledge is of this person, but they seem kind of lonely. Maybe shunned somehow? I don't know. Okay. Opened with an excellent organ, and I loved the percussion. Doo-dum, doo-dum, just right on the beat like that. I don't know if I've heard something that straightforward so far. It really grabs your attention. I started really focusing on the lyrics, and my ear kind of went away from the instruments a little bit. But then what grabbed my ear back to the instrumentation was the little piano part at the top, sort of like a sprinkling of sparkles up there. And then I heard some of the electronic synthesizer kind of noises in there. I love that stuff. We heard a bunch of that stuff in the last track or two, so that's kind of fun that it's coming back. But then they mentioned also something about like on the 42nd or 43rd floor. So I was thinking someone in the past, but if they're in a skyscraper, that's not that far in the past. So, all right. Well, the mystery unfolds. Here we go. I'm going to keep going. I'll back it up a little bit, but then off we go.
Nobody seemed to care. They all became too busy to find him anywhere. So no one knew, not even him, the problems he would find on the day he journeyed deep into his mind. I close my eyes, I go far away, away from the battlefield. In my dreams, well, here I will enjoy it, where innocence plays with all the laughing children, the kind who are crying right now. A taste of freedom from the pain of everything here I see. Life is sweet, but I took it all for granted. And now I don't know if I can ever tell you just what we permit, we allow. Allow me to forget the life I've made my own. I've held this nation in my hand, and yet it's not my home. Oh, allow me just one answer and one reason why this refugee of the family of man must die. Tell me why.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot to take in. It changes like every 16 bars is something brand new. And then there's like a little transition that goes from one section to the next. And sometimes it's polyrhythmic and all of the different instrumentation. Talk about instrumentation. All right. Well, I heard the violin. I heard the plucky pluck, the pizzicato of the violin. Then I heard the tremolo. And he was totally rocking out. And I've played a couple of arrangements of some rock type songs in the past, and I kind of got to do that a little bit. Let's see, what's one? I've done Paranoid Android by Radiohead and Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. So I know those two songs, but I actually got to play them in a string quartet, so I got to rock out on the violin. It was awesome. But I heard Robbie rocking out on his violin. Okay. The percussion. So it started out with a doo-dum, doo-dum, but then it was really whooshy for a while, and then we heard like congas and cowbell and all sorts of clinky clunky little sounds. It's like, go to the kitchen and get everything you can find, pots and pans and glasses and everything, and just see what we can make sounds with. But then more synthesizer noises. So I heard something that, I don't know, it kind of went shoo, and it was like over here. Really sparkly. Way up high. Like spatially up high. I really wanted to look in that direction. Does it have something to do with the skyscraper? Is it like the sun sparkling off of the building? Okay, well, there was just so much going on there. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this. Like, this is hard, even for my brain. Like, I can normally like bookmark where everything is, but I'm starting to lose track. But because of that, I'm getting swept away in it. So it's kind of fun. Oh, I did perhaps hear a change in the singer. So I know Steve is not the only one who sings. So was that Steve? This last section, I don't know, the vocals just sounded different somehow. But I did really like the softer section that just happened, and then we got into more energy. So again, let's back it up a little bit. I got to review just a little bit, so we're going to go back like 30 seconds or so. Here we go.
Draw the drapes, now destiny is done.
Okay. I actually think that was the most intense track so far. And that's saying a lot because Paradox and the spider and parts of Portrait he knew. This was really complex. Like my brain is having trouble finding its footing. Normally I can wrap these things up in a nice little package, but this one really threw me. I'm a little bit dizzy, but it's kind of fun. You ever just, spin around as a kid? Just spin around, get dizzy, right? Why not? Okay. Well, this music did that to my brain right now. But again, it's kind of fun. All right. I heard lots of fives and sevens, especially sevens. So that's 7 beats: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Things just never completely settled down, and none of it was completely comfortable. Just as you would get comfortable, something would change. And there were so many different little mini sections. And I think the only recurring theme from start to finish was the percussion. Even though it changed up in the middle. But like that dudum, dudum, that was at the beginning. I heard it again at the end. And this is the first time I've really heard the drums, like the most so far. So I'm going to call this one as a spotlight for the drums, for sure. And there have been moments, yes, that I heard the drums before, but this one, it was like almost throughout the entire thing. So then also the synthesizer sounds, they're just like not holding back. I feel like they kind of sneaked them in like slowly up to this point, and here they're just like, we're going to go all out with the synthesizer sound. So love it or leave it, because that does kind of pull them away from like mainstream rock from this time and definitely plants them over in the world of prog rock. I happen to like the electronic sounds, so all of those little trumpety horn kind of sounds there at the end, sort of triumphant announcing. Oh, and they mentioned something about a king. So, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of, royalty. But the king of what? Up in his tower, but hiding from everyone or shunned from everyone? It said something about people not caring anymore. Well, let me quickly look at the lyrics just to make sure I'm on the right track. Once carried through the current and being swept away, the king is in his closet. He's hiding from today. So he's hiding, okay? And though he owns all fortune, this room is where he'll stay, and his world is filled with darkness, turning gray. So yeah, gazing out the window of the 42nd floor, he is separate from all others. No one knocks upon his door. Many people loved his courage. Many followed his command. He changed the old into the new in the course of things to come. And then one day they noticed he was gone. So yeah, he disappeared. At first it didn't matter. Nobody seemed to care. On the day he journeyed deep into his mind, okay? I close my eyes, I go far away, away from the battlefield. Oh, so is this PTSD? And so now it's speaking in first person. Allow me to forget the life I've made my own. I've held this nation in my hand, and still it's not my home. So is this a politician? On the 42nd floor, though? So maybe someone in the business world? Okay, now it's back to third person. Daydreams filled his night times, and night dreams filled his days. Yeah, and with him died the Chronicles that no one ever read. So, again, that reminds me of Tesla. Okay, sorry. My camera just shut off. There was an error with the camera somehow, and it just went bloop, turned off. So I had to make some adjustments and replace a few things, and so I think we're back. But if anything looks different, that's why. So I was just talking about daydreams filled his night times and night dreams filled his days. I think that's where I left off. And I was thinking about Tesla because it seems like this person they're talking about was rather tortured, and that's kind of what I thought about Portrait, that maybe that had to do with Tesla. But I don't think they both are about him, so I'm not sure who this is. But whoever this was, he was very powerful and respected, and then just kind of disappeared. And it sounded like he kind of went into his own head. But for now, Big fat question mark. Okay. Musically, again, I think that this was a spotlight for the drums. So I want to go back to the beginning because we had the bookends. I want to go back to the beginning and hear that doo-doom, doo-doom, and then go to the end and hear it again. I love comparing the beginning, like where we start and where we end up. It's just fun to compare. And I'm sure we'll hear all sorts of other little sounds that were in there. In fact, this was just all so complex that I'm not even sure if I picked up on all the sounds at the beginning. I remember the organ, the keyboard, and then the doo-doom. So, all right, let's see. Let's see what's there. Yep, there's the organ.
Once carried through the
Excellent vocals.
and being swept away.
Mm-hmm.
The king is in the closet. He's hiding from today. And though he owns all fortune, this room is where he'll stay. And his world is filled with darkness, turning gray.
Yeah, so tonic was established very well, but now we're somewhere else. And there comes the drums. Oop, little syncopation there. Excellent harmonies in the vocals. So there's the little piano part. A lot of that up there, and it's way up high a lot of the time. Love it. That drum. Oh. Okay, I didn't remember hearing the little trumpet synthesizer sound that early. It just goes to show the depth of all of the instrumentation. It's hard for the listener to soak it all in, and this is the thing that is hard to accept here. When I'm listening to a piece like this, I'm just picturing the musicians working this up, not just like composing it and recording it, but then to play it again live. And I'm sure it's all memorized. And so for a classical musician, if we're playing a solo piece, we often memorize it. But if we're in an ensemble, we have the sheet music right there in front of us. And so we kind of are very dependent on the music in front of us. And it's hard. We're not supposed to step away from that because we need to be working so hard at fitting in with our section and communicating with all of the other musicians on stage or following the conductor that we need to have the instructions in front of us all the time. Plus, there's just so much music out there. You just can't possibly memorize it all. So we have all these instructions we have to write in and always have a pencil on your stand. Anyway, so this music is just so complex. I am overwhelmed by it. I mean, in a good way. These musicians in this band, they're overachievers. Okay, so I want to get to the place. Let's see. Oh gosh, what place do we choose, right? Oh, well, let's hear the end. We were going to go to the end. Okay, because it really does, I think, return from the beginning back to the end here. Let's see. Yeah, we're back to the same key. Yep, it's all there. The trumpet announcing the king. Or maybe sending him off. You hear that? That. Just that right there would be enough to throw a whole band off. And of course, we have a little fade out there. They wouldn't be able to do that on stage, but there are lots of ways to improvise an ending to come up with something. Here, I think it needed to fade away because it is like the send-off of this person's life. So like fading away into the distance again. So we have a lot of that, whether it's lifetimes or actual travel or, generations. There are so many possibilities for the concept of this album. And maybe there isn't one concept, but there's just sort of a realm of it, and all of those things fit in. So I say they're all good for now. Okay. Let's find a couple of the interesting parts in the middle.
No one knew, not even him.
I loved this softer part.
On the day he
Oh, the acoustic guitar and the piano. Oh, and the humming in the background.
closed my eyes, I go far away.
Did you hear the humming in the background? I don't think I've heard that on a track yet. There are lots of things on this track that I haven't heard in the album so far. They just keep pulling tricks out of their pockets here. Little magicians. Love the little piano arpeggio up there at the end. Let's go back and hear that again. I want to hear the humming and then hear it coming out of this section and then going into the next section, which was even quieter, even more delicate. And I think maybe they're talking about him going into his mind. Did I hear that there? I think so. Or maybe I was just thinking of it because it does sound like this person, like big person, successful, and then this person is just like kind of slowly fading inward. This is a sad story. Gosh. Okay.
On the day he journeyed
You hear the humming?
to his mind.
Yeah.
Close my eyes, I go far away, away from
The strings sound far away.
in my dreams. Well, here I will enjoy it.
See, is that a different singer?
Place with all the laughing children,
The tone is just a little bit different.
the kind who are crying right now.
Oh. This sounds like crying. The tears.
The taste of freedom.
Oh, now I'm hearing the bass.
Of everything here I see.
Do-do-do-do.
Life is sweet.
That's interesting.
But I took it all for granted.
So no drums right now, but the bass is kind of taking both positions.
Just what we permit.
The little sounds in the background are great. Woo-hoo. Drums. Okay, and so yeah, this singer sounds different. Okay, well, I might just be imagining that, but I do know that a couple of the singers blend really well, so, you know. Okay. So when the energy started revving up again, let's try to find that spot. Because then we had a whole world of percussion happening. Is that a xylophone? And the pizzicato? Oh my gosh. We've got tremolo there. Okay, yeah, you can do all of that amazing time signature stuff there, right? Oh my goodness. Okay. I've been listening to a lot of music like this, but wow, I just didn't know Kansas could do that. The tricky time signatures. Okay, so let me demonstrate what was actually happening there with the violin, because it's pretty cool. So first it was some pizzicato, and you just use your index finger, and you want to pitz over the fingerboard. You don't want to pitz here. Well, you could, it would have a nice sound, but he was pitzing to really let it sing. But then we had tremolo. So, like that. It's like a little teeny tiny electric guitar. Okay, so many flavors in this song. Let's see if there's anything else that I'm forgetting. I'm never going to be able to cover all of it. There's just too much. But let's just see. Ah, yeah. Let's get a little groovy here. Okay, wow, I'm kind of getting moved by this section. It's really heavy. And so the sadness of this story, I think, the tragedy of it, I think is being portrayed right here. But with the Chronicles, I guess it is like the telling of the lifetime of this person. So, and how things change throughout his life. And then he ended up like hiding from everyone. All right, well, regardless of who this is about, this was a lot of fun. Okay, so that was Closet Chronicles, and it was fantastic. Super proggy, which I love, and really complex, which I also love. And I was kind of bewildered and a little dizzy, and it was really a great adventure. And telling a really sad, tortured tale about someone. So all of you know, hopefully by now, that how I'm listening to this album, all of the full albums that I do for the channel, is I listen to each track like every day or two. And in between the listenings, I do listen to the previous tracks. So I really get to know all of the previous stuff on the album. And it just kind of sits in my mind for those couple of days. And sometimes I can't even wait. I don't want to wait even just 24 hours because I'm so excited to get to the next track. So this is already on my playlist. I'm definitely going to keep listening to it. It's going to be in my head for the next day or so. And I bet I'll notice even more as I keep listening. That's the fun part too, is that all of these sounds from this band, these soundscapes that they're creating, they start to become familiar and I start to really recognize them. It's a lot of fun. Okay. And as always, just remember that you don't have to be perfect. Just be okay. And keep listening.